More to our top story this morning. Former President Donald Trump notching a sweeping landslide victory last night in Iowa.
And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems.
Wow, a reflective president, but critics in the left-wing media didn't see it that way, either refusing to air or cutting him off completely.
We're going to seal up the border. We have an invasion of millions and millions of people that are coming into our country. I can't imagine why they think that's a good thing.
Donald Trump declaring victory with a historically strong showing in the Iowa caucuses. Here he is right now under my voice. You hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric.
The projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. We will let you know if there's any news made in that speech.
So if he wins the election, will they cut him off in the State of the Union address? Is that unbelievable? I'm louder than the winner. Tomi Lahren joins us now. She hosts a great show on OutKick. Tomi, your reaction to their reaction to Trump winning again?
I mean, I'm not surprised in the least, and they're going to continue to do this through Election Day and probably beyond that. And I think it's so interesting when they say because of his anti-immigrant rhetoric, he has not a single word was anti-immigrant. We're talking about illegal immigration. But of course, they can't say that to their viewers because their viewers have formed a safe space over at MSNBC and CNN, and they don't want to upset those safe spaces. A lot of these journalists that are masquerading as journalists are actually activists, and they hate Donald Trump. They hate the fact they were wrong in 2016. They hate the fact that Donald Trump is doing so well in the polls, not just within the Republican Party, but within the general election that's upcoming. So they don't want to give him a chance to speak to the American people. They tried that with that CNN town hall several months back, and they were so disappointed that even CNN viewers seemed to take to Donald Trump. They couldn't possibly risk that, so they will stifle him at every turn. So we have to be ready to play hardball because the media is not going to be doing Trump any favors anytime soon.
And the thing is, if you look at the polls, they did a voter analysis. Immigrants in the U.S., this question was asked, do more to help or hurt the country. 22% say help, 75% say hurt. Meanwhile, in terms of the issues that matter most, immigration's number one, 41%, 33% in the economy, then foreign policy, then health care. Tomi, what I think they're missing is instead of the president coming down an escalator and people saying, what does he mean there's a problem at the border? Now, everybody, including Democratic mayors, know there's a problem at the border. They're the ones living in 2015, 2016, don't you think?
I certainly do, and I think Lawrence alluded to this earlier, but if this general election becomes about the economy and immigration, Donald Trump is going to do very well, and I hope that he makes it about the current issues. We got to stop talking about 2020 and bedlam and retribution. We have to talk about the issues, and if the American people are concerned about immigration, well, Donald Trump is your guy because he's the only one that wants to seriously address the issue. That's very good for Donald Trump that people are starting to care. Very bad for CNN and MSNBC,
so
unfortunately
Tomi,
for them.
You just brought up tactics. Real quick, on New Hampshire, a different way to win in New Hampshire. A lot of moderates, a lot of independents, and a lot will be taking place voting in the primary. If you're President Trump, do you change what you say?
I don't think Donald Trump is going to change himself at all. I think he's unable to do that. But I do think that he's going to shift to more of a general election message, and that's what he needs to do. He did it the other night on the Fox Town Hall when he was speaking about abortion. I thought that was a great answer he gave. So I think you're going to see him pivot. He's not worried about Ron DeSantis. He's not worried about Nikki Haley. Now it's time to focus on the general election, and he can be there, actually the unifier that Joe Biden promised to be. It's just going to be a matter of him making sure he drives those narratives home that are important to the American people. I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, and Ron DeSantis says, I punched my ticket to live another day, and it's true. But Nikki Haley, this is her moment, because if she's going to win it all, New Hampshire will be the place it starts. So it's going to be exciting to see over the next few days. Tomi Lahren, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
And check out our show on OutKick. It's great. Meanwhile,
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.